Hello, this is Ed from South River Outfitters. Welcome to Kayak Fishing with the Pros. At this event, you can learn from the country's top kayak anglers. We will share their best practices and tips for hooking and landing more fish. From rigging the kayaks to choosing the right lure, these professional anglers will share it all at this event. You can learn in one day what would take years to learn on your own. Here we have Mark Naumovitz, who is part of the Hobie Fishing staff. He's going to talk about lures and light tackle selection, as well as sight fishing. Thanks for joining us.
Just want to thank Ed for having me up here. I think this is my third year speaking. I love being here. It's a beautiful venue. Like, I want to get married here. I'm getting married next year, but she won't let me. But beautiful. Just want to thank Ed. Want to thank all the sponsors. Hope you guys enjoy. Hope I'm not too boring. If I do, just raise your hand. I'll throw some free stuff at you. All right. So who here has sight fished before or tried to sight fish? Any luck? Raise your hand if you're a good sight fisherman, so that way I can hopefully speak knowledgeable to you. Okay. All right, cool. Word of the day, diatoms. Word of the day, diatoms. And I'm going to mention it, and we'll give away something for it. All right, so I have some notes up here. Hopefully I'll be able to go through them all. There's just some key things that I like to do when I sight fish. Basically, I've got the Revo from Hobie. It's a stable kayak for me. I'm a shorter guy. It purposefully suits me. The Outback is good. The Pro Angler is great. This one's just a little bit more quieter and stealthier, so this is why I choose this one. It's a little bit faster. I get to point A and B faster in tournaments and whatnot. Offshore fishing if we do it. So a lot of guys like their own boats. I like the Revo. So what I'm going to do for you guys is kind of break it down. I'm going to first talk about my equipment that I use, the location, kind of where to look for fish that you can sight fish for, the signs that you can see and notice that you can pick some areas rather than not fishing there and wasting your time. And then finally execution, which is, you know, you get all this stuff prepared, and if you don't execute, you're not going to catch a fish. There's a lot of times that I'll just kind of cruise the flat now. I mean, not even fish. And I'm just pulling around, looking for fish, watching what they do, watch where they hang out, see how they're set up. And maybe I'll pick up the rod and throw it a couple times here and there. But that's, I mean, we all do it. We sit there and throw and throw and throw with artificials. It's just kind of like what I like to do. I like to find the fish and throw at them. I mean, a guy earlier talked about using topwater baits and seeing that explosion on the top. A couple years I talked about that too. And that explosion, that excitement just gets your blood pumping. Sight fishing also gets me pumping. You can see the fish. You got to present it right. You can, a lot of times you see him eat, you see him inhale, you see him shake his head, you see him take off, and you're like, holy cow, this is amazing. So that's just why I want to talk about it a little bit. So first of all, in the equipment part of it is lure selection. When you sight fish, you want to kind of use the lighter lure. Heavier lure is going to be a heavier splash when you throw it. You might see it in the air. So that lighter, softer lure when you throw it, hopefully doesn't spook them. It still does. I mean, even like you sometimes bat an eye at them and they scurry off. So don't get frustrated. When I see fish, you know, and I sight fish around this area, they seem a lot spookier than up north or Louisiana or whatnot. Over there, they're just stupid. They'll run into your kayak and you can flip to them and catch them. Here, it's hard, a little bit harder. So don't give up if you like fishing this area. So I had a couple questions earlier. What's the difference between a DOA shrimp and voodoo shrimp, which I like using both? There is differences. I got this guy sight fishing with the DOA shrimp a couple years ago. And the DOA shrimp, if you've used it, it's a nice light bait. You can skip it real well. Last year I talked about skip casting. You can put it right where you want it on a dock or mangroves or something like that. It's a nice light bait. They're 1/4 ounce. The I think it's 3.5 inch that I like using. When it hits, it's gonna, the way the weights are, it's gonna kind of sink a little weight forward, but most of the time it's gonna sink just how it looks. It's not going to do this or this. It'll kind of roll a little bit. But it's a nice light presentation. Sometimes it doesn't even require a lot of work You know, you get these artificial lures and you want to try to make them work real good, and the more I'm fishing, the more I'm seeing the slider movements on a spooky fish. It works. The voodoo shrimp, it's a weight forward, so in my experience it drops a little bit faster. You can work it faster, so when you throw it, it's sinking a little faster. You can pop it, and it's got a segmented tail, some good action to it. Both of those work real well when you're sight fishing. Thad talked about dock fishing earlier. A lot of times you'll see the little shrimp skipping on the surface. They have a little mini 2-inch with the voodoo shrimp, and those work good on the docks. It's a lighter hook, lighter weight, doesn't sink as fast. But for the light presentation, for the spooky fish, I like to go a little bit lighter or a little smaller in your lure selection. The Mambo Mullet from Egret Bait, it's got a segmented body. Also has a lighter, soft touch when you throw it. Sends off a lot of vibration with the tail. It's another lure I like to use sight fishing. If you switch, here we go, DOA. If you're going to use some paddle tails or the curly tails, those are nice light baits for sight fishing. They're small in profile, 2-3 inch. Any fish loves them. They got a lot of action. My biggest trout to date, I got it on the DOA grub tail, that same color. Sends off a lot of vibration, but smaller bait. I think it was a 31-inch trout. That one was not casted, but the smaller baits work. And let me know if I'm speaking too fast. I just have a lot of stuff to cover. You know, if you want me to repeat something, I'll try to do it. Logic lures, they have these flutter tails. They also work real well. Nice long tail. You can dart them side to side when you see a fish, or you can lightly hop them. If you're not sight fishing, you can jerk them erratic to try to get some vibration through the water and pick up a bite. You can rig them with a regular hook. You can rig them weedless. They both work. And also, there's the owner twist locks. Any of these baits, you can use the owner twist locks with the weight on it, 16th ounce, 8th ounce, weedless. Those all work. You can skip cast these pretty well if you're working around mangroves, docks, things like that. So those are some of my baits. Switching over to hard baits, Thad talked about mirror lure. It's a great bait. The Mirrodine, the mini, or I like the middle Mirrodine, those work well. Again, when you throw them, they don't have a huge splash. So next one, Yozuri Crystal Minnow, the smaller ones. Those work real well. When you reel them, they have their natural action because of the lip, or you can add a twitch to them, get some more vibration in the water, pick up some strikes. So those are most of the lures that I'll have tied on. Even the when the fish get violent and they steal my tail, I don't give up. I still throw that. I've caught tarpon on it, trout on it, snook, redfish. I was fishing with my buddy. He's like, are you too poor you can't afford a whole shrimp? I'm like, well, I'm still catching fish, aren't I? So he was pretty surprised. I do have these tactical angler clips tied on. A lot of people are like, doesn't that take away from, you know, the fish seeing it and whatnot? I don't know. Does it? I mean, it's up to you. But I find it took me a while to be convinced to use them. Once I use them now, I can switch the baits on and off pretty quickly. Boom, off. Boom, on. So if you want to use those are nice. And at the end of the day, if you want to put them on a hook keeper, you don't have your hooks in your truck. It just keeps it nice and organized. So those are some lures I like to use. Skip casts. Last year I talked about skip casting. It doesn't give a big splash when you throw the lure. You can start your skip cast, hit it here, and by the time it's done skipping, it'll be 5, sometimes 10 feet away. That way, by the time it lands where you want it to go, it's not going to hopefully spook those fish. So I talked about skip casting last year. You can ask me afterwards, go on YouTube, skip cast. Basically, you're just skipping like a stone. You're getting low, you're getting your rod tip low, good speed on it, and you're just skipping it like a stone like you did as a kid. So moving on for equipment, sunglasses. These are RCI, these are the new 780 lenses. Any polarized sunglass, if you want to sight fish and do it effectively, you got to be able to see the fish. So a good pair of polarized sunglasses. They mostly all cut out UV light. These are the new lenses. They cut out infrared, which also protects your eyes even more. I tried them out. Troy from RCI said put a remote control of a TV up to it and try to see if the TV will, you know, turn off or turn on, and they didn't. So that means it blocks out UV. And what UV, or infrared. And infrared, it takes away a lot of the heat from your eyes, just protects it a little bit more. So good pair of sunglasses. Push-pull. These are from Yak Attack. I got these off of Ed. This is, I've talked about last year, one of my favorite things to use when kayak fishing. When I'm in shallow water, I can push-pull around with it. I like the 8-foot, which gives me, when I'm standing up, it just gives me more leverage when I'm pushing off, and I can walk it, you know, like they do in flats boats with the longer push poles. Kayaks, this is all I need. When you see a fish, you can drop it in your scupper hole. Boom. Mine's plugged up, but you can drop it down, and just dropping it like a power pole, but just dropping it will give you enough anchorage to stop, put you in place so you can make your cast to your fish. So that's a good one. Next, poles and my line that I use. We've talked about it. What I have kind of switched to over the last, I don't know, year or so is like microlight status. This is a 1000 Stratic. I kind of got it just for fun, but I really like it now. 6-pound braid, really nice light rod, and man, if you're throwing all day long, this is a toothpick. So I'm using this on open flats where there's not a lot of cover. I'm not throwing around docks. I saw probably a 40-pound jack one time, and I cringed. I didn't even want to toss at him with this. So this is trout rod open flats, snook open flats. Believe it or not, I got a 40-inch red on it, open flat. I'll tell you the story about that at the end. So it's just nice and light. A lot of guys are going heavier braid. They come in, into work and saying, shouldn't I get like 30-pound braid? I'm like, you could. Lighter line, you're going to get further casts. Braided line, you're not going to have any stretch when you set the hook. So I use 20 to 30-pound leader, mostly all year round, 30-pound fluorocarbon, tied on with a Alberto knot for the smaller knot, double uni, quick and effective uni knot for the clips and hooks, loop knot for baits. Overall, I use like an 8 to 17-pound rod, 15-pound braid. I'm not really afraid to throw into mangroves with that. If I'm targeting mangroves and stuff, maybe 20-pound through the docks, 20-pound. But overall, to get a good distance and strength, 15-pound on a 2,000 to 3,000 reel. If you're in a kayak, you get a big fish, you can get a sleigh ride, and so you can use that lighter gear. A lot of guys, I tell them what I use, and they're like, what? You catch fish like that while I'm in a kayak? He just gives me a free ride, and I reel in the slack when he gets tired. So that's what I like using. You can do a 4,000, just gets a little bit heavier. So I like 3,000, 1,000. So next we got locations. So when we're going to be targeting our fish, it helps to, I don't know, target your location. So mangroves, where's Sandy? Sandy, where are you? Raise your hand. There you are. All right. So we've got mangroves everywhere. Here in the lagoon, mangroves hold fish. What makes mangroves different than other mangroves? In my experience, just like kind of like bass fishing and whatnot, you work points, you work coves. Those are ones to look for. If you're in straight lines of mangroves and you don't know, you know, you can just keep throwing and keep throwing. If you find mangroves on like a higher tide where it's deeper water, those fish are going to push up under those mangroves, find food and whatnot under the mangroves, and cruise those mangroves like a highway. I've sat there and watched a couple schools of reds and trout and sheephead and snapper mixed in, and they're just going back and forth looking for food. And I'm like, dang, this is pretty cool. And I noticed that, I don't know if you can tell, but all right, so you got your normal ground, and I'm getting closer to the mangroves. If it drops down even a couple inches, 6 inches, a foot, you want it a little bit deeper near those mangroves. It's just something different where those fish can hide and find bait and ambush. So that ground contour and the type of bottom. We do have a lot of sand nowadays in the river, as you know. So when you're, I don't know, trying to find fish on these desert plains that we have now, even the slightest deviation of depth. So you've got channels, you've got, again, like I said, a 3 to 6 inch difference in your bottom. Those fish are going to, you know, now use that instead of their grass to ambush and wait for bait and come through. Another location, of course, you've got your structure of docks, tree stumps. Man, tree stumps, if you guys want to load up on snapper and sheep's head and stuff like that, overturned tree stumps that have limbs hanging out, you're going to see tons of snapper and sheep's head and things like that. Throw a DOA shrimp, voodoo shrimp in there, let it drop, couple twitches. I mean, I get tired of getting hits off snapper. So if you want a snapper dinner, find some tree roots. Docks, since again this grass is kind of receding, the fish are trying to find new locations, so they're heading towards structure. The docks are great. I mean, if you're going to be fishing the docks, like I said, I cringe when I throw my 6-pound in there, my 15-pound, sweet. Let's skip cast. Let's try to get as far under the dock and past the dock as possible and work that bait through. Work it with the tide, so it just looks like a bait fish running through. So the current and setup of the fish is another big one. So if you're fishing near the inlets a lot and you've got a lot of current, you're going to see these fish oriented into the current. Anybody know why? Waiting for that bait fish, waiting for that food to come by. So one time, I'll just tell it now. There was one time I was walking these flats. I was sight fishing. I had anchored out my kayak. Tide was coming at me, and the fish were pointing away because the tide's coming at me. And so I'm just taking it nice and slow, walking. At the time, we had some grass, we had some potholes, and as soon as you see the grass and you see your pothole, you know that's a target area that you want to start throwing. I'm not throwing in the grass constantly. I'm throwing where I see those potholes because I know that's where the fish are going to lie. So I was able to pick up some really nice trout, this big to this big, some snook sitting in the holes. You want to present your lure, throw ahead. A lot of times you're just reeling with the tide. You're not reeling fast, you're not reeling slow. You're trying to work at the same speed as the tide. If that's not working, you can give it some pops right past that pothole, either straight at you. If the current's coming at you, you can work it straight at you. When you do that, though, you got to watch out for your line going over that pothole. You're going to spook a fish, so work your angle. If you see that pothole, try to work at it at 45 or something. Let that bait sweep in, and a lot of times, just try it up. Reel it steadily, slowly. If that doesn't work, try it again, pop it. So if you see a pothole and you're not getting hits, try it a couple different ways, because that second or third try sometimes, you're going to pick up on fish. And otherwise, because you can't see a lot of these fish a lot of times. So when I say you're sight fishing, a lot of times it's sight fishing the location, not the fish. Okay? So signs, read your fish and change your tactics if needed. So a lot of times I'm seeing my fish. They're just spooking away. Like I said before, if I literally see a fish and flip in front of him, a couple feet ahead, working my bait across him, he's just scattering, I'll try to do it maybe 1 or 2 other times. If I'm getting the same thing, I got to switch it up. I got to change my bait. I've got to change how I twitch, something. So change your color. This is a big thing, guys. I've always kind of wondered the color thing. Last year in the DOA tournament, I was using the Glow Over Gold. Caught a lot of redfish and trout on it. Working these mangroves, I had known they were there a couple days prior. Throwing my bait at it, and I literally counted 4 or 5 reds come up at it and turn at it and go back to their home at the last minute. I'm like, what the heck? I need a redfish. You know, I'm getting frustrated. Do the same thing. Redfish comes up, turns. I'm not lying. The next cast, I switched colors, darker color, the 425. Actually, it was this color with the chartreuse tail, lighter color on the bottom, darker color. The next cast, redfish. Caught 4 redfish just by changing the color. So if something's not working, I get stubborn and I get tired and I don't want to change my bait too, but you gotta. I mean, if something's not working, change it up. So learn how to spot shapes and movement and make the long cast. All right, so this is kind of big. Like if you're going along and you see a fish and he scatters, well, you screwed up. He saw you, he felt you, you did a big sound or something like that. Try to learn how to see what your fish looks like at a distance. It looks like a log. I don't know. I'm just going to paddle over and see what it is. Oh, it's a fish, and he shoots off. That's your fault. Make the long cast. The lighter braid, you're going to get a longer cast. If you see something that looks like a fish, what's a cast? You know? It could be the fish of a lifetime. Again, if you're in current, you're kind of, and if the current's strong and you see a fish this way, it's probably not a fish because, you know, the current's going to push them sideways. That fish is going to be oriented this way. So if you're walking, you're paddling along and you see a fish oriented the way the current is, probably a fish. So let me give a cast at it. So learn how to spot your shapes. You know, your trout, they're going to look like a log. Your snook, you're like some big hog snook. You think it's a manatee or a shark sometimes, and just give it a cast. A cast is free. Better than running over one and spooking it. Here's a good one, guys. Watch for your other species. So if you've got like stingrays moving around or manatees, make a cast at them. So we have a lot of stingrays right here. What that does, when a stingray or a manatee is pushing through, those manatees have those big tails. I had one slam me in the face one time like a football player. Like a 300-400 pound manatee. Like Nick was here, he saw it, night fishing, and all right, off the manatees. But anyway, they could be for some use. Those big tails, they, you know, when you move your paddle or something, it stirs up stuff. So when those manatees push through, they're going to be stirring up stuff, which is bait fish, your crustaceans, your shrimp. They're going to pop out of the grass, and then they're going to retreat. So if you do see a manatee, don't try to hook them. I've hooked them before, not fun. Try to cast behind them and let it set. Give your twitches. You might pick up a red or a trout. I was up in Canaveral one day. I was fishing alone. There was manatees everywhere. Their poop was floating everywhere. I'm like, this is disgusting, but I'm throwing. I caught 40 trout in like, I don't know, 3 hours. It was ridiculous this day. It was trout coming up after other trout, knocking trout out of the air. I had a lure dangling off the back, 2 inches under the water. Literally 6 inches from my kayak, and trout were coming up and slamming it. And it was around manatees. They had stirred up a lot of the food and whatnot. They were going crazy in a feeding frenzy. I had a good day that day. Caught 2 bull reds. So the stingrays, they do the same thing. Those flaps moving along, they're pushing up stuff. Cast right behind a stingray. Unfortunately, sometimes you'll snag their tail. I had cast right behind one time. Snagged just the tip of his tail, and I had a 20-minute long fight with a stingray this big with my little rod, but it held up. But you got to make the cast. All right, so our favorite part, execution, catching your fish. So when you're orienting yourself to these fish, you got your sunglasses on. You're in the sun, facing it. You're getting blinded. Is that the optimal spot? You kind of want the sun to your back, so you can see the fish. The only drawback of that is that fish might see your silhouette. So again, that's where the long casts come in. Okay, so usually the sun to your back. Try to get your wind to your back. Okay, so why? Make the long cast. So get the wind to your back. sometimes you can like just fling it like this and let the wind take it. You get 5, 10 extra feet. Makes the world of difference. Change your bait. Change to a 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce. Get some more weight if you want. You know, get your longer casts. Now, I said before, like if you are not sure, make the cast. That's if you're not sure. If you know you've got this fish fooled and you're stalking it like you're stalking a deer, nice and slow, you've got all your gear put away, you know that you can sneak up on this fish and make the optimal cast, it's better than just seeing it far off and I don't know if I can reach it, and you throw it right on top of them or 6 inches from them. If you know you can sneak up on that fish, do it. You know, you're gonna again see how it reacts to your presentation and whatnot. It's gonna add to the excitement, but better yet, it's gonna give you that good cast to hopefully get that fish. And sometimes you're just lucky. I'm going over all this stuff, and sometimes you're just lucky. This guy, I was lucky. I was ready though, because I was in the North Flats and there was potholes. I saw some nice trout. I'm like, because I was pulling along, like I said, just soaking in the day up, just checking stuff out. I saw some nice trout. I'm like, sweet. So I go and get my rod, get my lure ready. I look up. I saw heaven. This red, I mean, literally, just from me to you guys sitting there, big red in a foot of water, just swimming. Didn't know I was there. I'm like, this doesn't happen. Like, am I dead or something? So I was ready from seeing those trout before. One pitch, I let it because it was swimming nice and slow with the voodoo shrimp. Boom, I was just real nice and slow. I didn't want to spook it. I'd waited my life for this moment. And then boom, I gave it one twitch right before it and it just inhaled it. I was using some sauce, some scent with it. That's from Voodoo. There's Procure as well. You can gob that stuff on. A lot of times I've caught fish, if I know where they are, you can just pitch it out, gob it up with scent, and just let it sit and wait. Gotten fish that way. I've got some nice bull reds up north. It was my second bull red ever. Fishing by myself. Caught a ladyfish. I chunked the ladyfish up, but I had thrown my bait in the pile of ladyfish. Set up my anchor, took a nap. I woke up to my rod. Ah! I'm like, ah! So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm a little crazy sometimes. All right, so I talked about once you spot your fish, don't just make a silly cast, creep up on it. Low profile. If you guys can, if you're in a pro angler or something you can really stand up in, or if you're wade fishing, you know, what do you do when you sneak up on somebody? You look like a burglar or something. You know, you're doing this creepy move. So that's what I do with trout. You gotta pick it up. I'm just kidding. How about something free now? No, low profile, because you got your sun, casts a big shadow. If you get low, you got a lower profile. I've had snook and redfish and trout coming at me. Don't go like this. You know, I don't know if you guys ever deer hunted, but you're not making quick moves to like hide from the fish. You know, you're playing it cool and calm, getting low profile. So again, movements, your sound and vibration. Ed's got this new Thad's got it on his pro angler. I've got Sea Deck on my other boat. If you want to deaden your sound in your kayak, if you're standing up in it, if you've got your metal anchors, which I would prefer these guys, you know, they're a little bit quieter than clink, 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 throwing your anchor out. That sound deadening Sea Deck, it's going to help your game out. It's going to, if you are standing, it's going to cushion your feet more, you know, so you don't get blisters and all that. But the big thing is the sound if you are sight fishing. These fish are smart, guys. I know they're small, stupid fish brains, but man, they're smart. The snook, they're smart. So anything you can do, I mean, just like you're deer fishing or deer hunting, deer fishing, anything. So you guys that are yelling over to each other, hey, look at this spot. look at this fish I caught. Shut up, I'm trying to fish, you know. I'm here to enjoy the day, but it'd be nice to catch a fish, so shut up, you know. So your yells is going to create vibration in the water. Even when you're paddling, if you know you're going to fish a spot from here to the building, don't just go up to it and then stop. You know, you're in hunting mode. You're here to outsmart the fish. So creep up on it, glide in there. You know, I'm just telling you what I do, guys. After I've caught a fish! Yeah!
I'm pretty sure there was like a pompano in there.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God!
How about when I lost it? I had my stick. I had caught a pompano. I love pompano, but Dad just passed that love on to me, and they're a hard fish to catch sometimes, and when you do catch one, you get excited. Yeah, a little bit.
I've also heard Christina, every fish Christina catches, she is so excited, like her
Yeah, yeah. So I had my stick pulled down, I'm reeling in this pompano, it's shooting left and right. I'm like, oh, I can't lose this fish, and it wrapped around, took off in another direction. I'm like, God, are you kidding me? So anyway, all right, so again, leading the fish. Don't throw right on top of the fish, lead the fish. Sometimes throw, if they're real spooky and you know they're cruising those mangroves, or you know they're cruising back and forth, throw 5-10 feet ahead of it. Don't do anything. Again, if you have scent on and they go over it, they're going to smell it and eat it. You know, if they are cruising, if that's not working, give it a twitch. You just gotta, don't get frustrated and say, I can't sight fish. I mean, I get maybe 1 out of every 5. You know, some days are awesome. It's everything. So this guy is a pretty cool story. DOA shrimp. I had got out, stuck my anchor. Me and my buddy were waiting, and again, I'm doing the burglar walk like this. No, but I had seen just the top of something in the grass. He was like sleeping in the grass, and when I had walked up, I mean, I literally got from me to you about right here, and it didn't like spook. It just kind of woke up, and it just started swimming in between me and my buddy. And it wasn't this one. It was his brother. It was 30 inches. I'm not lying, and just swam right between it. My heart just sank. I'm like, holy cow! And I probably yelled, "What can I get?" And 2 minutes later, guys, we're walking again, and I had noticed that same back coming out of the grass, and I'm like, I'm not walking any closer this time. I learned the first time, so I pitched past it. I'm working it real slow. I don't need it. I'm just working it real slow. I wasn't twitching. I didn't want to spook it. I got it. I literally watched it get right near its mouth, probably from me to you in the green, right near its mouth, and I just saw him go. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Set the hook. It came out of the grass and just got big because it was in the grass. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And those big trout, sometimes they're lazy. They just sit there and roll. And he did his rolls, and I reeled it in, and I'm like, holy cow. All right, we need the camera. Oh, so that was the story on that one. It's just, it was awesome. So if you haven't picked it up, if you do want to sight fish, standing is a great way. You just gotta be quiet. Again, with your paddling, walking around, hitting it and whatnot. But if you do want to get out and wade fish, that I've walked up on some big fish, just creeping and walking, and I don't know, they just don't pick up on the vibration when you're walking as much. I don't know, guys, but I've just noticed if you get to your location with your kayak, stick it out real good, because I've had a kayak float away, and the guy picked it up on a boat. Is this yours? Yeah. So get out and wade if you could. And wade those areas. I mean, you can go out and wade and just throw and throw and throw, but again, find those areas that have sandbars, that have deviations in the bars, Your mangroves, like I said, your deeper mangroves on a higher tide, skip under those mangroves. You can catch some fish. So that's kind of what I got, guys. I have some time for giveaways. This is a book I designed by Florida Sportsman. It's all on sight fishing. If you go to Florida Sportsman up the road, you can pick up a copy. It's got a DVD in the back. I learned a lot just getting out, but I learned a lot asking questions, but I also learned a lot picking up stuff and reading it. So I would recommend that. All right, is everybody happy? All right. I just again wanted to thank Ed and South River Outfitters and Hobie and all the sponsors for